because I wanted to have something together for the engineer when he gets back to show what you are hoping to do in that space. I did a little bit more work on this. It's going to be necessary one way or another. Anyway, and I'm just going to run through these as quickly as I can so I don't have much editing time in this film. There is quite a bit of information though, so a lot of it you can read yourself. So I will just try to run through it as quickly as possible. First, I did a bunch of research on these accessible paths, everything accessible I learned about, and then I designed these baths based on what you and I talked about. I designed these two bathrooms based on all those accessibility requirements, with this turning circles and this clearance in front of the sinks. And this was the baths, the two bathrooms I came up with without their dimensions there. And there is what it looks like drawn out. Now we don't know, I didn't yet know how deep this stage is here. And I'm showing it 7'4.5", but we're definitely going to be pushing this way into it because the stage ends somewhere down through here. It's pretty far down. So some of that stage gets cut back anyway, but this western margin, we don't know what that number is yet, and that's going to impact where we put this door. Originally I wasn't thinking of that, and I kind of had this door more centered here for even more privacy entering these rooms. But getting a doorway through here is not going to happen. And if we want to keep this to 3'0" wide, this doorway here has to be 44 inches. Now there are variations on that. You can have this doorway at 36 if this hallway is 44, and that sort of thing there. But I have designed it to preserve as much space north of that as possible. And I was surprised everything was fitting in here like this. Notice here, eventually I had another one. These are glass block windows that are just like 16 by 16 glass block windows that are put in through this brick wall. When that brick wall, that upper portion of that brick wall is constructed. So if they're just 8 by or 16 by 16, that's like those things are $8 a piece. So it's $32 a piece, and they're going to charge you the same for laying them that they do for laying brick. So I would highly recommend some artificial light in these rooms, in these two restrooms. There's still room, if we go back, there's still room to put a waste receptacle in here, particularly if you recess it in this wall. You really aren't going to recess it here because this thing here needs structure to attach to. But there's room for a wastebasket in here. There's room for various paper towel holders on either side of these sinks, mirrors. I don't really like that the mirror in the men's room is opposite these urinals, but there was no other way that I was, anyway, quickly figuring that out. So I ignored that. But the rest, everything is what code would want for those. And that is, it zoomed out with all those dimensions in. And then a few other thoughts in this. I believe it would just call that 115B, Plan 115B, referring to the date January 15th. And this is where I fix these up now. That's kind of the more final result of 115B, with 4 of these little windows across the back and then 3 toilets situated like that. These doors can swing in or out so far as that goes. This one should swing in at least. And these toilets work out better that way with that plumbing down below, as you can see. So, and I don't know whether that 3-inch cast iron line, and that's what that pipe is coming up through there. That's the vent from that 3-inch drain. Or maybe it's the vent for, I don't know plumbing enough to know what that is exactly. Finally, a couple other considerations. I don't know whether, particularly if you're talking about large occupancies or maybe weddings or whatever you have planned here, whether you want to widen that doorway to a wide double door like this. Last, they're going to require a drinking fountain, a public drinking fountain in this space, and I have it in that doorway, recessed into that doorway a little bit. And I'm only covering this because you mentioned it. Yeah, you could turn these stairs around if you wanted. If you didn't want to change that floor, if you left the floor framing completely alone, you could rotate the direction of these stairs. But in terms of having any people down there, you're not going to be able to make either of these stairways as framed code compliant, leaving aside the issue of exits. But if you did want to rotate them around, it does make more sense up here for you to coming in this way. Even, it all depends on what you're going to use those basements for. If that's going to be a bunch of storage, which I don't think it is, you don't have that much travel. I mean, I'm not even sure it's worth the headache, but I did want to mention that you could actually just have those stairwells enclosed. You would lose that floor space above them on both of them, but it would be possible just to put up walls with a door at the end, and then same steep stairwell, same floor framing, but you just have a regular door. And these walls, well, your walls are going to be out here. On this side, those walls would go all the way to the 12-foot ceiling. On this side here, it's going to be a little funky because the ceiling's open over here. So, but if you did, you did. And then these ones go up 12 feet or whatever they go up. Now I want to get back where I was. With regard to that, yeah, I just wanted to mention that. But I did that. Coming here then, I started trying to figure out this occupancy load. And it's based on this table. And yours is an assembly. And so it's going to be, depending upon what the actual space is, this is how these calculations work out, occupant load. And that's further going to be limited by the number of bathrooms and et cetera, et cetera. But theoretically, you could have an occupant, maximum occupancy. And I don't know, I'm not quite sure. This is just based on net, and it doesn't include any numbers of like square footage of the other areas. So if I did this correct, though, you would have a maximum number that the fire department would say, no more than 318 people in here. Except you can't meet that with your bathrooms. I find out a little bit later on with the bathrooms I've put together already. But yeah, so go up here and see where I go with this. On mercantile, your maximum occupancy load was 40 because it was just mercantile. And then your group is going to be group assembly A2 as near as I can figure, because this includes all these. A2 includes all these. A3 includes all of these. So I used A2 to make a few different calculations and try to get some more information about changing this occupancy from mercantile to assembly. So I went with A2, and with A2 that means there's a way of how much egress you need. And so I went through all of this, and your building, based on whatever I determined, is going to require 2 exits, and that's going to be based on design occupant load. Right. If you only had 1 exit, you could this would be the maximum 49 would be the maximum occupant load of that whole space if you just had 1 exit. But you already have plenty of existing exits. You don't need 3 or more. This is for people over 500, and you can't get to 500 just from the square footage limitation. And you can see, though, from 1 to 500, they want 2 exits from the building, and that will apply to the basement as well. They would want 2 exits out of that basement if you wanted to include that as part of your operation there. And then where these doors are, it looked to me like using this bit of calculation here, this bit of stuff here, they want half of that diagonal line between the doors no closer. The doors can't be any closer than that. And half of that diagonal line is 36 feet. The upshot of that is that one of these doors has to be part of your exit routes and your exit plans. All of those can be, but at least one or the other of these, at a minimum, will have to be included as part of your exit plan or whatever. And since you require more than 2 exits, you'll have to have this emergency electric system for illumination in the event of a power outage. And two of those, at least two of those doors will have to be, but they're going to be accessible means of egress anyway, so you don't really have to worry about that. And this next bit though is something you might have to worry about, or you will have to worry about for sure. These side hinged swinging doors, which is what you're using in all of those locations, and where they are going to be part of that exit plan. So at least one of those outside, one of those south ones, this applies, and those have to swing in the direction of egress travel. So, and all you need for, even if you had an occupancy load of 318, all you would really need is 68 inches of doorway. So you just need to get two of those doors, one at the front and one at the back, swinging outward to be included as part of that needed 69 or 62 or however many inches it was. And this last bit, so since those ones there, at least one of those south ones is swinging out, that is going to have a landing outside of it, and that landing is going to have to be right level with your inside floor. So you're going to have that landing there, and then you're going to have yet another step down. So that will not be inaccessible. And I'm not sure now, yes, I'm thinking now that probably they are going to want, because one of those doors down there is required, and since you only have, you have to have two of these doors have to be handicapped accessible. Now it could be that you could get two of those front doors to swing outward and be the right width, and they're already wide enough, at least the two on the west, and that will serve, but they are not far enough apart, I don't believe. So the upshot of my looking at it is that they are going to want to ramp at that back door, at one of those back doors, because one or the other, and I would just say the one to the right, is going to have a ramp up, and that's a little bit of a headache because I believe that's up about 12 or 14 inches from the ground, and they want, it's a pretty low slope. So I will make some sort of, we will find out whether that's going to be required at that rear door, but that's something to think about. And I really just thought about that now during this recording. And the landing will have to be 44 inches north to south. You just, special, just open the door. No special things. This is on the bathroom with the required fixtures, and the stuff, everything has to be hard and smooth, ceramic tile, etc., or some other product that's like what's described here. And in those restrooms, anywhere around there, you're going to have to come up the walls 4 feet with that. But it could be something as simple as that fiberglass reinforced plastic panels. Now, I'm not sure exactly what they mean by this here. I'm assuming they mean our little hallway there. They don't want you, but generally I think they just mean they don't want you to be able to open the door and be looking right at somebody. And I think we're okay on all of that. They don't mind you looking at somebody at the sink, I don't believe. But they do want you to be aware of that, including mirrors, but I don't think this was just the divider between those two that is required. That divider there. And there's no requirement for a mirror. As near as I can figure, I don't think I looked at that specifically. I'm pretty sure there's not a requirement. Maybe there is. This next, hopefully the last part, is these minimum, how much plumbing fixtures you need given your occupancy. And again, this is all assembly occupancies down through here, but yours look to me closest to this sort of thing. It goes down some if it's this or some of these other things, but I made these calculations, theoretical calculations, that if we did have that max occupancy, because you have the doorways for it, you would need 4 toilets, 8 toilets total, and 5 sinks. But even at a maximum occupancy of 200 though, then we start getting closer to something that we have. So I kind of just said, well, even maximum occupancy 160, 4 toilets, and we have one more than that. and 3 sinks, and we have one more than that. So your maximum occupancy based on that is going to be some number between this 160 and 200 or so. I would think. Again, I'm just guessing. This is kind of new to me. So I've been updating these now where they're more than just existing conditions plans. These are the alterations and renovations, stuff we want to show to the engineer, hopefully, at our first opportunity. And I've been updating these, and this section in particular has been added or kind of fleshed out some. And hopefully some of this stuff is, I'm sure all of this is correct. I just don't know that they want me to show this or whatever. Oh, great, that's the end of it. That's the end of it, and I'll get it edited, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.